and welcome to the JB Doula podcast. I'm Jessica Brown, a certified birth and postpartum doula serving families in southwestern Pennsylvania, and here we talk about all things birth work, womanhood, and the childbearing years. Plenty will still apply to our other parenting journeys such as dads, trans, and non-binary friends, and this episode is a continuation of the What is a Doula series. And this one is knowing your options. It kind of spins off of what we talked about last time, and let's get into it. So I know last time we really talked a lot about how a doula really provides a lot of information and education, and that's because it's really important. Like, yes, we do provide hands-on support and affirmations and all of these things during the laboring process, and it doesn't stop there. Like, yes, emotional, physical support, but I think one that often gets overlooked is just how important and how helpful it is to have someone who knows this vast amount of knowledge. Like, I have a huge book list. Like, I'm trained and certified, but my education doesn't stop there. There's a huge emphasis with birth workers, especially doulas and midwives, of this just continuing education. And that really is to take a lot of the pressure off of families, that it's like, yes, we have this person who is grounded in the birth world. They know what's going on. They know a lot of options they have for the area, and they can help me kind of sort through what my preferences are and what is feasible for me, my body, my situation, health-wise, financially, and in the area that I'm in, to just sort of suss out what kind of birth am I aiming for? What can I kind of expect? What am I trying to do? And it's not to have it be goal-oriented, yes, I did this, I was on the ball for this amount of time during early labor. It's no, let's get you a toolbox of things to draw from, of maybe the ball's comfortable at this point and it won't be later, or maybe being in the shower, really soothing, and then at one point you're I am tired, it is hot, I want out of here, I like the water, but now I need to move, I need to pace, I need to bounce. So it's just giving you these tools to really have a repertoire of these are my options. I practiced them. I have an understanding of them, and I have someone there who can suggest them when it's pretty obvious usually to see when it's this isn't working for you. And then having just someone there let's try this position this time and try that for a few contractions to see how you feel. So that's kind of I think what a lot of people who might be familiar with a doula think of is just someone who is let's be a birth coach, let's do this. And it's they kind of do that. I feel more like a birth guide, where it's oh, you seem to be kind of wandering off the path a little bit and you're looking a little tight and scared. Let's kind of draw you over here and maybe try something like this. And all right, how about you have your arms around your partner's shoulders and just kind of slow dance for a little bit and get recentered and reconnected and just be in their arms and feel really safe. Or if there's no partner, we can do that. I'll dance all day with you. Let's go. And it's just kind of being, I think, really intuitive with birth, where it's I have this foundation of knowledge, and I have a foundation of knowledge with you from our prenatals together. And then I use that to just let's see what you need in this moment. And then we've also prepared a lot of things ahead of time where it's you do not like to be touched on your shoulder or your hip. And it's don't do that. So it's all right. If I'm going to provide comfort for something that's I'm in pain right now, maybe I'll just hold your hand, or maybe we'll massage your back instead. Just having information on my end of you, and then from me providing information of birth choices, because that's what this one is about, is knowing your choices, because that helps you feel capable of anything that comes up. So you can really be in that moment or the moment to moment of, this doesn't feel good now, let's try something different. And then doula bringing a tennis ball out for the kind of pressure on your back. It's yeah, let's do that. So to let you be able to be carefree and in birth, and just with these moments and each surge and just riding the waves in that way, it helps to have a lot of that precursor decisions and understanding ahead of time. Because to have informed consent, you need to be informed. And it's really, really hard to talk about risks and benefits and alternatives while you're having contractions. It's hard. You're doing a lot of hard work. It's akin to a marathon. You don't see someone doing business transactions while they're on the phone running. It's just, you don't do that. You save that for later. Better yet, let's do it ahead of time. Because then you're not even thinking about it while you're running. You're like, that's taken care of. I have a general idea of what I want to do if X, Y, or Z happens. So it's like, yes, I'm preparing for a vaginal birth after cesarean. I understand that depending on where I give birth, they may be more or less opposed to me even trying. And I'm just really trying to avoid at least being a scheduled cesarean. I really want to try for a vaginal birth because I know I can do it. And let's give that a go. So having like, what do you envision your birth to be? Is it a VBAC where it is like I had a cesarean and I think I can do a vaginal birth and I really want to? Even if you might have doubts, it's like if the foundation is like, I really want to try for a vaginal birth, then it's like, yes, that's our cornerstone. Let's build off of this. So it's, what provider do you have? Are they supportive of VBACs or do they just kind of say they are? Or is it like a few weeks down the road, they're really encouraging you to schedule for a repeat cesarean when that's not what you wanted to do at all? Are there midwives in the area, whether birth center or home birth midwives, that are supportive of VBACs and willing to try? So it's, where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? Who do you want to be there? Like just that, the whole who, what, when, where, and why, and how. We're trying to like put all these pieces together, pull out the things that matter to you, and kind of give you, it's a birth vision. Like it's often called a birth plan, but plans go awry. They often do. And a birth vision really is like, my eyes, they are cast to the horizon of, I would like to birth vaginally. That's what I really would like to do. And everything else is just like, what can get me towards that? And if it ends up being, because there'll be a little asterisk over here of like, and if I end up needing a cesarean, what can I do so I don't feel X, Y, or Z? Like maybe you already had a cesarean, like with the VBAC scenario, and you're like, I really don't like that the doctors didn't explain what they were doing. It makes me feel more anxious. It makes it harder for me to feel a part of it. I feel detached, and I really struggled with those feelings after having my baby in my arms because it feels like I wasn't there. Just things like that where it's like, okay, so this is what you don't want to feel. So how can we try to avoid that? So it's like, I would like my doula to be in the room with me. I would definitely like someone to be there while I get the epidural inserted and while they're getting set up. So it's not just me alone in this OR with people I don't know who are just like doing all their protocols and things, but I just feel on this table alone. And like, all right, I also want my partner there. Like I definitely want my partner if I have one, and my doula there with me. Maybe you want a clear sheet so you can kind of see through and see what's going on. Some don't want to, some do. And do you want the doctors to explain, or do you want to just focus on your partner or your doula with you? Do you want to have music in your ears? Just like, how can we try to like discover these pieces that would be really important to you, so that way no matter where your birth takes you, you still feel like you had autonomy, that you had choice, that you were part of the process, and that you also feel that this is the rite of passage that you were having. Because even if it, like, even cesareans are births. VBACs are births, vaginal births are births. If you have an epidural, you still birthed. Like, you still birthed. It's okay. Like, our births take all kinds of shapes and sizes. It happens. And twists and turns and all the works. Like, yes, I had Pitocin. Like, yes, you had Pitocin. That's really hard. Like, that's like turning the level up to super hard sometimes. Especially if you're trying to do Pitocin without a pain medication. It's like, holy shit, that's awesome. You're really awesome. Pardon the swears. But that's kind of what the doula does in these prenatals. Like, we meet with you ahead of time. And it's to get to know you, so that way, like, if I do put a hand on yours, or try to, like, rub your shoulder, or, like, touch your hair, that you're like, oh, like, this is someone familiar who I know, and it doesn't make you tense. Because that's what the idea of what hands-on support is supposed to be, is, like, comfort. So, to get that familiarity, and that, like, yes, like, I'm on your side, and I understand what your wishes are, and I understand, like, don't touch my feet, they're super ticklish. That will not help. To also, like, I really like to be held. I like to be hugged. those kind of things. And that's part of the prenatals, and the other parts are preparing you for finding out what it is like, what do you envision, and how and what do we need to do to try to get you as close to that as possible. Because even if it's not a vaginal birth, which might be you're like on the horizon guiding star, beneath that there's usually something else where it's like, I want to feel connected to my partner, or I want to feel present in the moment. So maybe I don't want to feel foggy with certain medications. I don't want any risk of forgetting. Or it's like, maybe I will get really tired, but what can I do before that to try to like keep my energy up? And depending on the hospital you're at or where you're birthing, you're allowed to eat and you're allowed to drink more than just water. And like being able to eat and drink, that's huge to keeping your energy up. Absolutely important. And some hospitals, especially more rural ones often or not, it's just their protocols are still a little outdated where it's like, yeah, you can safely eat. It's just they're worried that you're going to end up with a cesarean and they don't want you to aspirate. It's like all these like things. They're assuming you're going to have interventions, discounting the fact that being allowed to eat and drink a tea or a labor aid of some kind will help prevent you from needing the interventions that they're so worried that you'll have and then aspirate or choke on your vomit or whatever it is. It's just, sometimes it's just like they're jumping the gun, honestly. And we're trying to help you peel back those layers and be like, all right, so that's what they're concerned about. Here's what I'm concerned about. And what do I need to do? Because I really like to think, too, that it's not just preparation of like X, Y, and Z needs to be done. This is what I would like. I definitely want to be in the tub and I don't want any medications, and just having like these rigid set things, because you might think you want a water birth because they are awesome. But you might come time to labor and you're just like, I am not comfortable. Like I feel too hot. I want to pace. This isn't what I want. And I really want it, so I'm going to make myself stay in here because it's on my birth plan. And it's like, no, you can get out and you can always get in later. It's just being able to roll with each wave and be like, okay, this is what we'll try this time. And it's also sadly about what is feasible. So it's not just like what you envision, which is really important. I like to really have that be, again, a cornerstone, where it's like Birthing from Within is a great book that I recommend for sure. The emotional and like psychological and like all that aspects of yourself and like your baby and your family, not just the medical physical aspects of, well, I have high blood pressure, so I have to do these certain things with my birth. My birth is not considered high risk because I have high blood pressure. And then just kind of like discounting that you can still have like a really like intimate and connected birth and like beautiful moments that are for you and your family. So having that just like mentality of like, oh, like I've been talking to my baby, I feel really connected, like I know all kinds of things are going on and they're constantly like monitoring me, but I'm able to find like these little moments of peace and like intimacy that are really important to me. So we kind of sort through that as a part of it, like looking at what's feasible. So what I really mean to say is that for me, like I really like to emphasize the emotional and psychological and mental aspect of preparing for birth. But with this particular podcast, it is on this like information aspect too, because that is like really important. There's a lot of different decisions that can be needed to be made, and it's really easy, or it's easier to make them ahead of time, or to have at least an idea of what those decisions might need to be in those moments, rather than trying to figure it out on the spot while you've been dealing with contractions for several hours, or while they're getting more intense and someone's just talking to you saying like, we need to do this, or this, like what is your choice? And you're just like, I cannot talk right now, I am having a contraction. Like, and you might not even be thinking that complete thought, you might be just thinking like, stop talking to me because I am busy. So having those ahead of time, and part of that is seeing what's feasible. So it is like, if you wanted the VBAC, is your area, does it have a provider who is supportive and encouraging of VBACs, because that's a huge impact on if you'll be able to have a vaginal birth after cesarean. Because you may be fully capable of doing so, but if the provider you're with is not about it at all and is just constantly coming and butting up against you and just undermining that aspect, it can be really disruptive. It can make it really difficult to have the vaginal birth that you'd like to have. You don't want to be fighting and butting heads with your provider, whether it's a VBAC or a scheduled cesarean or your first vaginal birth. It's like you don't want to be at odds and feeling like you're on a battleground. It slows labor down and makes you tense. And it's like, it's not enjoyable. This is supposed to be like a really special day for you. Let's not make it hard. Let's not do that. So that's part of the feasibility. It's like, is what's available in your area provider wise. And the other aspect too is financial. Especially in Pennsylvania right now, it's really like, insurance is finicky business, you know? It's especially with doulas, like it's usually a reimbursement based. So you would send in the invoice after you've paid it, after the service is complete, submitting it to your insurance and try to get reimbursed for it. That's usually what happens currently in Pennsylvania. And it can be similar with midwives that do home births as well. Because it's just like, it's quote unquote like not in the network, things like that. So even if your insurance doesn't cover a doula or a midwife, they can still be and still end up being cheaper than the hospital bill or the interventions you might have at the hospital or the recovery after a cesarean, things like that. So I think it's really important to consider like what is the financial feasibility for any of the options you're looking at, and kind of seeing what feels best for you and your family and like what is feasible for your family. And sometimes feasibility is also your health. If it's like you really want, you know, a home birth, vaginal birth, but it's like you're showing signs of preeclampsia and you've got really high blood pressure, you've been having these headaches, and it's just, if you become high risk, it's like your birth situation of feasibility changes. And having someone there who, even if you go from a home birth to a hospital or a birth center or wherever, they'll go with you to whichever one you choose or whichever one you have to go to based on your health. Because sometimes you are high risk and it isn't safe for you or for like the liability of a midwife out of hospital to be doing a birth with you. You would be safer to try at a hospital. And you still might be able to try for a vaginal birth at the hospital, even as high risk, but you'll just have these people there who are experienced with taking care of birthing mothers and newborn babies during these situations. So it can give you some peace of mind. And some people aren't comfortable with being at home to birth. So maybe a birth center would be a good option, because you get kind of like that midwife model of care and like an awesome birthing tub, and it feels kind of homey, and there's a big bed to be on, and it's like nice soft lighting, and the rooms are decorated all cozy, and it's like, yeah, that would be awesome. Do you have one nearby? Like what's the feasibility? Do you fit within their parameters of a low risk birth that they can take you on as a client? That kind of stuff. So that's where a doula can help like kind of wade through all these choices and options and feasibility, kind of help find out what it is that your goals are, what your vision for birth is, and kind of help guide you along the way to like, well, here are the options that most fit with this and also most fit with the circumstances that you have, whether financial or health-wise or location-wise. So I think that's really important to understand, is that a doula does more than just the day of the birth. We do a lot leading up to birth to help prepare families to feel most capable and like competent for anything that might come up. And it's totally okay to be overwhelmed. Like, it is a lot. Like, I've been reading and studying about birth and postpartum since 2017. Like, that's a university degree. Just like, I've been here, I've been learning. And it's not everyone has that time or dedication. It's like, usually you find out you're pregnant and you're like, I have 9 months to learn all of these things, decide what my values are for my family, my body, my baby, and to make these decisions, and to also find a provider that aligns with these choices I have and these feelings that I feel are really important. So it's just really like, that's a lot to suss through. And a doula can help be like that touchstone and consistency and continuity, because even if you do switch care providers, like, they'll be there with you. Like, maybe you want them at the prenatal with you, seeing your provider and asking questions and going over your birth vision to see, like, what is your rate for episiotomies? Like, how often do you cut women and why? Why are we doing that? What are your rates for cesarean births? Like, unscheduled cesareans. And, like, kind of finding out, like, what provider's right for me. And if you feel comfortable enough having them not there with you at the provider's prenatals, like, they still have them with you, getting prepared with you for birth. So I think it's really important to keep these things in mind, that it's continuity of care goes beyond just being with you for the 12, 26, 36 hours that birth may take. We're there with you in the beginning, and we are with you right after birth, and we check up with you afterwards too, like usually in the first week, unless we're your postpartum doula and we're already there. But as your birth doula, we'll be checking in within a week of your birth to, like, see how you are doing, see how your partner's doing, how baby's doing. Is the latch okay? Are you having pain while breastfeeding? Are you just feeling, like, really tired and not sure how to find a way to get more rest? Does it feel like you can't sleep? And kind of, like, keeping an eye out for any, like, indicators of postpartum depression. The first week is usually pretty early. That's still typically baby blues that go away within a week or two. But then having a postpartum doula who's there with you for a couple more weeks after that, they're like, these feelings are still really strong and they're still really persistent. Maybe we should reach out to somebody. And they have resources for people you to reach out to see, do you need, like, a little bit of extra help? Like, are you getting enough sleep? Can we find a way to make it so you can sleep some more? Or is it that you're just like, I haven't eaten and I haven't showered in a week? And it's just like, oh, let's get your basic needs taken care of and then reevaluate from there. Like, do you still feel these heavy feelings? Because it is normal. It does happen. And you can have scary thoughts. And that's also, like, really hard to feel, because you should be, like, quote unquote, should be so happy. My baby and I are safe and healthy and we're here and it's great. And it's like, yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it's just really hard. It feels really hard. And having someone there who's just like, it's okay. Like, you can have these thoughts. They are just thoughts. It's scary. And if you keep having them, like, let's go reach out and get you some professional help. It's okay. I'd rather you get the help and then feel better. And then feel content and happy with your baby now. So let's go do that. It's a lot more than just, oh, she, like, rubbed my back for a few hours. It's like, we do a lot of stuff and we're really, like, attentive and intuitive to our clients. It's just, we want you to have the birth that means the most to you and that you remember positively for years to come. There's plenty of studies showing that women 20 years down the road will remember details from their birth. And if they're negative, they'll remember that one nurse who said something really nasty to them. And conversely, they'll remember something really positive, like, I remember how my baby looked right into my eyes the first time I held them. So it's just really trying to increase the chances that you'll have a lot of positive memories and feel content with the birth experience you had, and trying to mitigate chances of feeling traumatized or regretful or put down. Like, we want you to feel like you're capable of anything. Not just to birth, but after the birth. Like, that is a common feeling, that it's just like, you did this birth and you're just like, I feel like I can do anything. I feel amazing. Yes, I am tired and I am sore, but I made this baby and I brought this baby out and I love this baby and this is amazing. I did this. And it's really common to just feel like, awesome, I did that. And then your partner to see you too and go, I can't believe she did that. That's amazing. These are common feelings, and I really want to help you have them. So it's preparing for the unexpected, so that way it's not blindsiding you, and education and support and resources, so that way you can make informed choices that are best for you and your family, and the key being choices that you made, decisions that you're comfortable with, and sorting through what's feasible, as well as kind of seeing what it is that you envision your birth to be like. Same with your partner, they have visions too. And trying to meet that vision. That's really the knowledge and choice. It all kind of like feeds into each other and goes back and forth. What you're looking towards, where you're starting at, because that's a big thing. Is like a doula starts like where you're at. They find out like, have you ever been to a birth? What do you know about it? Is all that you know is from like the TV where they're screaming, like the water breaks, they're screaming, and now there's a baby? Because it's really prevalent, this idea of fear in our culture with birth, and that's like part of my goal is to help clear away some of that fear mentality, because if it was that terrifying, like I don't think there'd be as many people as there are. Like, we're able to birth and we're capable of birthing, and I want you to feel capable. I want you to feel secure in your choices and knowledge, and I just want you to have a great experience and to remember it from 20, 40 years down the road. So next time we'll get a little more into what a doula does. And disclaimer, one of the things a doula doesn't do is we aren't your care provider. Like, we do know a lot about birth, but we don't make these decisions for you. And we don't diagnose things for you either. So we don't take your blood pressure to go, oh, you have high blood pressure and now you're high risk. Like, no, you get those done with your provider, and they tell you like, oh, you're within these parameters of high risk, and like this is what our care is like this way. And then a doula works for you from there. And they might suggest like, do you want to get another opinion from a different provider? And going with you through that process. Because honestly, like, we don't make the decisions and we don't diagnose, but we can support you in your journey and finding out what's best for you. That's really like what a doula is there for. So thank you again for joining me on my meandering thoughts and explanations of what a doula is. And I hope you have a great birth and happy birthing. Before I forget, the next episode is going to be going into like a continuation of what a doula is and what a doula does by talking about a doula's secret superpower when it comes to birth. And it kind of course, builds off this foundation of knowledge, information, but by holding space and protecting it in the birthing room or during the process of birth. So I'm really excited to get into that with you guys, because it is kind of a superpower. Like, we do some really cool stuff. So if you like this episode and you got something from it, or you think someone else might, please share it with a friend or like and subscribe. And I'll have it on multiple platforms for you to watch and or listen. And we'll talk more next time. Happy birthing.